when everybody's asking you as a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up? I asked myself the question, well, what do I love doing? And how do I get a career doing that? So I loved photography and I loved movies. It seemed like an impossible dream for a kid growing up in a relatively small, remote city in Western Canada. So I started a small company because I'd made a couple of small documentary films. I did one and then another one and another one. The company got a little bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Shooting stuff every day for my little company and for anybody else who'd hire me to shoot whatever. I wasn't fussy. I mean, if I was shooting something, I was happy. And the benefit of that was that when I got a call to shoot a low-budget feature film, I did a pretty darn good job with it because I'd put in my 10,000 hours, so to speak, and was really ready for it. Started doing a second unit for the American television series MacGyver, which was the biggest show on TV at the time, and then ended up shooting the last couple of episodes that they did in Vancouver. That was 1990, and I basically haven't stopped since then. My first camera was my dad's regular 8 Bolex, wind-up Bolex that I shot my first little student films on, and I kind of progressed from there. There was no digital, and it was very expensive to put a roll of 16mm film through a camera. And that really knocked me out. And literally within 2 months, I had sold all my Super 35 stuff, actually cleaned out all my equipment. I'm committing to full frame because this thing is stunning. My philosophy going into this test film was, my first instinct was to do what I do every day for a living, which is mold and sculpt beautiful images, and I use a lot of atmosphere, and I use filtration, and I use vintage glass sometimes, or anamorphics, or what have you. And I thought, let's make a demo reel that'll really show off what this camera is capable of under the worst possible conditions. To that end, I took it out in nature. I took no grips, no electrics, no bounce, no fill, no nothing, not even any lights. I started in documentaries, so with the film, I was kind of returning to my documentary roots. And I took the film also to a very beautiful place that I grew up, so it had some meaning to me. There was this constant DP image to make everything more beautiful and enhance it and pose my personality on it, but it was a little bit difficult for me to not do that with this because I wanted it to be a pure, clean test of the camera so that other cinematographers, and myself included, could look at it and say, this is what this is producing under extreme contrast circumstances with the sun in the shot, with deep shadows, harsh sunlight, very, very soft light that you get in the Pacific Northwest. In spite of beating the camera up, so to speak, it absolutely knocked our socks off. I had a very good DIT with me who's been with me for years. He was knocked out by it. And of course, when we got it into the color suite in Dolby Vision in HDR, we saw stuff in there that I never would have expected any camera to have been able to hang on to in terms of both highlight and shadow detail. I kept it in the full 4x3 sensor format so that we had all the sky and as much image as we could so that there's as much information in there for a cinematographer who wants to see just how well this camera is going to look after them in a condition where you can't control anything. And it did it really well. And my preference is always to shoot as much of the material as you can with the same camera. And I've got a lot of experience and good friends and connections in the VisFX world, and they prefer that too. They want their plates shot on as similar a camera as they can possibly get and as high resolution as they can possibly get. And I wanted to demonstrate that this camera would work great. You can put it in an existing drone, existing underwater housing, shot over helicopter gyros, Steadicams, what have you, and it's perfect for everything. I couldn't find any application that I wouldn't be able to use the same camera body for that I was using for the main part of the production. For the aerial work, we put it in a shot over gyro mount on a helicopter with one of the better camera operator aerial fellows in the business. And we landed, he got back, he was pulling it out, and he looked at the Sony people and said, we'll take 2 of these the second they're ready.